إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئاتنا آمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise and glory is due to Allah Azza wa Jal. We praise Him, we glorify Him, we seek His aid, and we seek refuge with our glorious Rabb from the evil inclinations of our own souls and from the evil inclinations of our actions. Whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal guides, none can misguide, and on the contrary, whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal misguides, none can ever guide. And I bear witness that there is no deity except for Allah Azza wa Jal alone, Al-Wahid, Al-Ahad, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His final servant and messenger. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدع وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار والعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear and respected brothers and sisters in Islam, the general topic of what we have been in discussion of is hope and mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? And we all need that. But every once in a while, my brothers and sisters in Islam, we need a shock. We need to consider the other side of the hope and mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. And before we get into that, I'm going to ask each and every single one of you, myself included, of course, first and foremost, a question that is going to be thought-provoking, that is going to provoke us. Are you ready to be provoked? Be ready to be provoked, because this is a question that should provoke us. But before we get to the question, let's consider a hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because without this hadith, there's no context to me asking the question. This hadith is from the collection of Imam Ibn Majah, who is recorded a famous scholar of hadith from medieval times. And this was a hadith narrated by Jabir radiallahu anhu, and he was one of the Sahabi of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it is narrated, and the historians say that Jabir radiallahu anhu had fought maybe 19 or so, many battles under the command of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this is a hadith that has been classified as sahih. This is a hadith, we all know that when we go into the grave, the malak will come and ask us three questions, right? Man rabbuk, man dinuk, man nabiyuk. These are the three questions. And those who are righteous, they will easily answer. رضيت بالله ربا وإسلام دينا ونبيا رسولا ومحمد نبيا رسولا وصلى الله عليه وسلم. This will come easily to those that are righteous. The following, the hadith, this is for those that are special, that have a special level with Allah Azza wa Jal. Once the questioning is done, then he will rise, the person in the grave, the soul will rise, and he will he will see the sunset, as if the sun is setting. He will wipe the dirt off of his eyes, and he will say, Da'uni usalli. What is this, my brothers and sisters in Islam? He's going to say, leave me now and let me pray. This is the question, my brothers and sisters in Islam. Do you think about when you're going to be in the grave? This is the thought-provoking question for each and every single one of us that we should ask ourselves every single day. When we are in the grave, we are generally told, that's it, khalas, it's over. We're in the resting place, and it's either you will experience the adab, Astaghfirullah, may that be none of us in the Jama'ah, or you will just be at rest. But do you want to be one of those, when you're in the grave, you say, leave me now and let me pray? If your heart does not immediately, when you hear this, doesn't immediately say, Ya Allah, let me be one of those that when I am in the grave, I am doing nothing but making sujood to you, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Does your heart not immediately want this? If not, there's something wrong. And we'll talk about that. But my brothers and sisters in Islam, this is what we've been talking about when we're talking about attaining the ultimate reward. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. This hadith, applies to those who fall so in love with the ibadah of Allah Azza wa Jal, so in love with their salawat, so in love with making sujood to Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah makes it, He allows for them to, even after they die, to prostrate to Him and to pray to Him. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is this not what we want? Each and every single one of us, my brothers and sisters in Islam, is this not the dua that we make to Allah? So now, let's talk about the shock. We are always talking about attaining Firdaus al-A'la and all the glad tidings that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. And the last time we talked about the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, where on the top of His arsh, it's written, Inna rahmati ghalabat adabi. Right? In another narration, the word ghalabat is replaced by sadaqat. Inna rahmati sadaqat adabi. Means my mercy will overshadow my anger, my wrath. The mercy and the wrath, the mercy and the fear, the warnings, they come in parities in the Quran. The majority of, as you look through the entire Quran al-Hakim, it's in pairs. One of the examples that we talked about before, which is one of the most optimistic ayat in the Quran, right? Which was in Surah Al-Zumar, Surah number 39, ayah number 53. Ya ibadiya alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim la taqnatu min rahmatillah. Inna Allaha yakfiru dhunuba jamiyan. Innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Allah Azza wa Jal, as we discussed before, He is inviting each and every single one of us, and particularly those that have transgressed against themselves, right? These are the people who have transgressed against themselves and they left the Sirat al-Mustaqim. These are the people who are not worshipping Him properly. These are the people who are despairing, will Allah accept me if I turn back to Him? I have sinned, I am in such deep in my sin that I'm ashamed to turn back to Allah Azza wa Jal. And we talked about the context of this ayat and when it was revealed. We won't get into that today. But the main point is Allah Azza wa Jal is inviting those that have transgressed against themselves by pursuing their indulgences and their desires in the dunya. He is saying, turn back to me. Turn back to me. I will forgive everything. I don't care about the past. I will forgive everything. And then here's the following ayat after that. أَنِبُوا إِلَى رَبِّكُمْ وَأَسْلِمُوا لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُؤْتِكُمُ الْعَذَابُ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُؤْتِكُمُ الْعَذَابُ ثُمَّ لَا تُنْصَرُونَ. Here's the warning. Allah Azza wa Jal says, so turn back to your Lord and submit to Him. That's the condition. And submit to Him before the punishment reaches you. Because once the punishment reaches you, it is too late. Then it is too late. This is when you're in the grave and you're not saying, let me pray. You're not wiping away. You're not seeing the sunset and you're saying, let me pray. This is when the adab begins. And it's too late. My brothers and sisters in Islam, we're always talking about hope and mercy, of course, no doubt about it. But again, that's why Allah Azza wa Jal, He brings the warning for those. And this applies to us on every single level. Maybe most of us, inshallah, are on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. But there may be infractions that we commit secretly by ourselves, whatever it may be that we are disobeying our Rabb, Allah Azza wa Jal, in one degree or another, that for each and every single one of us, we have to measure our own taqwa and our own relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal on an individual basis and say, what is it that I'm doing? What infraction am I committing that I need to adjust and rectify and get out of my life so I can connect to Him Azza wa Jal? So that's the first example. There's another example in Surah Al-Sajdah, ayah number 19 and 20. So first, Allah Azza again, He says, أَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَلَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْمَأْوَى نُزُلًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Right? So those who do righteous deeds, who believe in the ayat, for them there is the Jannat al-Ma'wa. Ma'wa means the place of refuge. A place of refuge, a safe, where you can be safe. Right? And this is what they will get. Following, now listen to this, Allah Azza now He mocks those that are disbelieving by using the same word ma'wa, but He's saying something different. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا وَمَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارِ وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا, these are the ones who are defiantly disobedient. Defiantly disobedient to Allah Azza. My brothers and sisters in Islam, you might think it's okay. Now I'm going to talk the real talk. Because we're all humans. Not everybody comes to the masjid. Most of us are Jummah Muslims. We come just for Jummah. That's it. You're not establishing your salawat 5 times a day. You are pursuing the indulgences of your desires, the illicit indulgences and desires that you want to pursue in the dunya. You're going to the clubs, basically, what is it? I'm not talking about the jama'ah in general. This is a problem, my brothers and sisters in Islam. There are many within our families, within our communities, within the Muslim ummah at large, in general. This is why we need a shock once in a while. Because what are you doing? When you're pursuing the indulgences, you're going to the hookah club, you're going to pursue women, you're pursuing drugs, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. If this is La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, astaghfirullah, may it be no one from this jama'ah. May it be no one from this jama'ah. But the fact of the matter is, this is the message that does need to reach those who are sacrificing their akhirah for these cheap desires and pursuits. Right? And we'll talk about what is it that we're giving up. And maybe for most of us, it's not to this magnitude. Maybe it's not to this extreme. Like I said, we have to measure ourselves individually at our own individual level in terms of our level of piety with Allah Azza wa Jal. So whatever it is that we have, we need to consider and rectify so that we may be amongst one of those who Allah Azza wa Jal blesses to be the ones that say, let me pray to you, Ya Allah. Now I have the opportunity to pray in peace. No distractions when I'm in the grave. And then, following in the ayat that we were just talking about. أَمَّا الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا وَمَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارِ كُلَّمَا أَرَادُوا essentially كُلَّمَا أَرَادُوا, I'm forgetting the ayat, but essentially let me translate. Allah Azza wa Jal, He is saying, those who will be defiantly disobedient, their place, and when I said ma'wahum nar, their refuge is the fire. This is when I mentioned that He is mockingly telling the disbelievers, those that disobey, that your refuge generally has a positive connotation. He's saying your refuge is going to be the fire. And every time you wish to come out of the fire, you'll be thrown back into the fire. And you will be told, taste the punishment that you used to deny. Again, back to the point. When we pursue the indulgences of this dunya that are in defiance and disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, we are denying the punishment of the fire. That's what we're doing. My brothers and sisters in Islam, I normally don't talk like this, right? Most of my topics have been, how do we attain Firdaus al-A'la? Well, part of attaining the Firdaus al-A'la, and we'll talk about that again today, inshallah, but part of attaining Firdaus al-A'la is knowing those things that we need to do our best, that we need to fight against, and that we need to stay away from. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, now let's talk about what do we put at risk? What do we put at risk? What is the price that we pay every time we are disobedient to Allah Azza wa Jal? What is the price and the investment at stake when we are pursuing our indulgences in the dunya? Right? And now again, back to the part of the Quran, the ayat, the criteria that I will repeat over and over and over again, because again, with repetition comes the implementation, right? With repetition comes the familiarity. And so, my brothers and sisters in Islam, if you haven't opened up the Quran and looked at Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah 23, I believe, look at the first 10 ayat. There's the 6 criteria that we always talk about, because this is what is at stake. Every time we miss our salawat, every time we lose focus in our salat, every time we are out pursuing indulgences that we should not be pursuing, this is what is at risk. And I'm going to talk about it. But again, one thing we have to understand, my brothers and sisters in Islam, is that we have to strive to seek the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. And you know, these excuses we make to ourselves when we are out in places where we feel this is a social recreation, right? It becomes habitual. The youth, the people of this generation across the world, they become habituated to Friday night, Saturday night, going out to the party, going out to the hookah, going out to the restaurants where they're serving alcohol, where they don't need to be. And they feel that if they don't go do this, that the rest of their week doesn't work. They need to set their mind straight so they can get back to work and go on about their business. Why don't we strive and focus to habituate ourselves to find that pleasure in the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal? Why don't you come to the masjid? Wallahi, when you come to the masjid, you're going to find more peace, more tranquility, and you're going to be around righteous people who are going to guide you to righteousness, and you're not giving up the investment that we're going to talk about. You're not giving up. Rather, you're working on this investment, this ultimate reward that we're going to talk about in a minute here. You see what I'm saying? We have to recalibrate our perspective. We have to readjust what magnetizes us. What is it that magnetically pulls us? Is it Allah or is it shaitan? Ask yourself. Are we being magnetically pulled? Are our desires toward those shaitanic things, those are haram? Or are we loving to come to salawat at the masjid? And you know one thing? This is the one thing. You might think, what is he talking about? You know, they're old people, they come to the masjid for Isha and Fajr because they have no work, they have nothing else to do. This is what they do. My brothers and sisters in Islam, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you can't be more wrong. You know the only difference between the people who come to the masjid for Isha and Fajr, you're thinking, what, people come to the masjid for Fajr? Yes, my brothers and sisters in Islam, even at 4 or 5 a.m., people come to the masjid for Fajr. And you know the difference between those who come and who don't? It's not that they don't have the same problems that you have. It's not that they don't have the same challenges that you have. It's not that they don't have any jobs. The only difference is they have recalibrated their minds. They recalibrated their desires to align with what Allah Azza wa Jal loves, with what Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded them to do. And so they love to come to salat, and they made a commitment to Allah Azza wa Jal. And they're saying, where else am I going to go? Because I'm going to be a loser if I don't come to Fajr. I'm going to be a loser if I don't go pray Isha in Jama'ah. And this is what is at risk. And we'll finish with this. We talk about this all the time. Please, my brothers and sisters in Islam, if you get anything from hearing me talk, get this so that you can, inshallah, be eligible for the Firdaus al-A'la. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Successful are the believers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Number 1. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Work on perfecting your salat, getting your salawat so perfect and so accurate and so much, you're so in love with your salawat that when you come and stand in salat, this is where you want to be. You don't want to be anywhere else. When you're in sujood, you don't want to come up from sujood because that's the best place you can ever be. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Number 2. which is refraining from vain, idle pursuits. Talking about nonsense, pursuing business or YouTube or whatever it is that you're pursuing that you think you're going to get a few measly dollars out of. There's nothing wrong with establishing yourself, establishing your livelihood. But be careful that the shaitan doesn't distract you into these idle pursuits that lead to nothing but guiding you away from Allah Azza wa Jal. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَوَاتِ فَاعِلُونَ Pay your zakat. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ What is this? Protect yourself, your private parts from illicit desires, haram relationships. This is hard for the youth, I understand that. But what are you giving up for this measly drama? When you're out, indulging yourself, indulging your hedonistic side, you're going out seeking pleasures and pursuits, you are giving up al-firdaus al-a'la, the highest paradise, not just paradise. You know the lowest level of Jannah, my brothers and sisters in Islam, the lowest level of Jannah this entire world, if you were the king of this world, it's nothing. It's like the wing of a fly compared to the lowest level of Jannah. That's what you're giving up when you're pursuing this garbage indulgences. And then, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ آمَانَاتِهِمْ وَأَحْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ Keep your trusts. When someone trusts you with something, when you give someone your word, whether or not, if you are Muslim, if you're mu'min, you give someone your word, you adhere to that word. And then, number 6 again, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ Protect your salawat. Protect your salah means pray your salat on time. Establish salah in your families, in your households. This is what you are giving up. You just need the 6 things. Realign your lives, my brothers and sisters in Islam, around the 6 criteria, and you are now eligible for the firdaus al-a'la. Insha'Allah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنه تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من وليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت وأقيموا الصلاة.